Hello and welcome to Chemistry and Society here on Focus on Liberia. This week we have another topic of discussion where we'll be discussing the impact of science on the global economy and how much science has impacted economies around the world. I'm your host, Saki Golafale, and I have with me my co-host, Mr. Dennis Jha. Mr. Jha, welcome.
Welcome and thank you. Thank you, everyone. Want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe to yet another edition of Chemistry and Society. Today, we're going to be discussing, as Saki said, the impact of science on the global economy. How does the global economy depend on science? And where else can you have that discussion except on Chemistry and Society? Back to you, Saki.
Thank you very much. And I feel so overwhelmed and grateful to have our astute gentleman here this evening. For the reason, the basis of the topic on science and the global economy, we've invited people from our diverse professional backgrounds. We've invited our two social scientists and our physical scientists to discuss and how we all can sit at the table and discuss and propose ideas that can influence change and our proposed change for economic growth and development. So, gentlemen, welcome. Welcome to Focus on Liberia and Chemistry and Society.
Thank you very much.
I have Mr. Hafiz Sharif. He's a graduate student of applied physics at University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. And we also have Dr. George Gumpu. He's an economist and a political activist. Here we'll be discussing from the economic perspective, science and globalization. And we also have Mr. Samuel Jackson. Mr. Samuel Jackson is an economist and an author. Or you will tell us about your book if you want. But welcome, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you very much, Dr. Golafale. It was nice to see you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I know people may see this kind of topic to be a weird thing that we don't have scientists and physical scientists and the social scientists sitting to discuss development issues. But I think this is somewhere we want to see how we can elevate this discussion to the national level so that we all can understand what each person brings to the table. Let's get started, gentlemen. And the first segment of this program will focus on the global perspective of science and the economy. How do they coexist? We'll be discussing that for the next 20 to 25 minutes. And then the last segment of this will focus on Liberia. We all here are Liberians, and how much Liberia can science be a driver for our economic growth and development? And let's get started with our first will be an open question to our panelists here on the state of scientific achievement in Europe, Asia, and America. Let's talk about give your perspective on scientific achievement in these countries, these continents, where we all look at them for the latest iPhones, the latest technology to keep our lives going. So I will start with the Mr. Sherry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Golafale. So the state of scientific development in the three major regions of the world you have mentioned is really applaudable. I'll be brief. America, first of all, leads the world in scientific innovation, discovery, and research right now. One key point to recognize here is America's growth in the area of semiconductors and microelectronics. We wouldn't be having this discussion on this platform without that scientific development. Just the development of the semiconductor industry, especially in Silicon Valley and what have you, and the growth and innovation in microelectronics led to America's victory in World War II. You cannot dispute that. America beat other nations around the world. It's not a war is good, but that's just a fact. Asia right now is like a hoop of manufacturing. You can't argue that. So we can clearly see that Asia has grown in the area of engineering. Europe herself has also been previously, as you know, the home of the Industrial Revolution. And today,
HR, you mean human intelligence?
Sorry, say that?
HR, you said. I said you mean human intelligence.
Oh, sorry. I was saying Asia. Asia has grown. Asia. Yeah, sorry about that. My voice is a little bit crackly. I'm saying Asia has grown in the area of manufacturing. So, I mean, their engineering stream has developed very strongly. Europe, being a home of the Industrial Revolution, has also shown a lot of growth and also massive support for innovation. How do all of these come together? I'll try to be brief here. So, this scientific development impact global trade and global economic in a positive way. But none of these would be possible without the establishment of standardization, because countries have to trade with one another, countries have to communicate, and this is only facilitated by scientific standardization. Because standardization removes technical barriers to trade and establishes conformity with stuff like the SATO, sanitary FATO policies and other things. So you see, Asia manufactures something and the thing gets sold in the United States of America. That's because bodies like the WTO have minimum standards for goods and services to abide by. And very briefly, I would like to mention in my closing on this identical item, science and global economy cannot be diverse. Recently, there's this new word called globalization as opposed to globalization. It is currently occurring between China and America. There's this trend towards decoupling because China is developing in one direction and America wants to develop with the democratic blocs around the world. You can see a trend going towards this and towards slowing down globalization between America and China. And this is affecting industry like the laser industry, semiconductor industry, and what have you. You're going to say something, I'm sorry.
Great, Hafiz. We'll come to some of the things you talk about, standardization and some of your work in Liberia. Dr. Gompu, you've listened to Mr. Sheriff, and your perspective, how has our scientific advancements spurred economic growth from an economic perspective? What's your take?
Yeah, I think, thank you very much, Saki. I think I agree that science is highly significant in the transformation and the growth and expansion of the global economy. The OECD countries, the countries that we refer to as the developed countries of the world, they tend to have much higher productivity, and they tend to perform consistently well in so many different indicators: human development, in governance, and in quality of life, happiness, and all of that. And these are the same countries that are really strong in science and technology. So the growth of the economy has been influenced by technology, and the whole technological advancement, which is at the center of economic growth and expansion, depends heavily on science. And so going back to the Industrial Revolution and following on, the economy, there's so much changes that have happened because of science. So the importance of science in the global economy cannot really be over. Space technology. There's so much research now going on in space. And although nations like the United States and Russia are strong in space, the other countries are coming along, including China. And I even recently heard that an African country had launched a satellite. I think that was Ghana. And so this expansion into space is possible because of science. I think scientific innovations, especially the area of physics, and then when they get up in space, the experimentation to see whether life exists, biological sciences and chemistry as well. All of these are coming together. And the space technology and space research is also helping in impacting very positively some of the developments here on Earth, especially in telecommunication and information technology. So I strongly agree with that.
Great. It seems that we all have an agreement of how much science is impacting our global economy. I'm coming to Mr. Jackson, and I'm sure he worked as a banker before. Correct me if I'm wrong, but let's talk about the banking sector. Like in the 60s, there was a development of the ATM. Where what's your whole take on how much the ATM technology has impacted the banking sector. And then I will bring Hafiz in to talk about the science of this whole ATM card and the magnetic chip that's all in it. What's the physics of it? He's going to discuss that later. Mr. Jackson, you are muted.
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead. It's good now.
Yeah. I just wanted to add my thing. I mean, the scientific advancement and its impact on human history. So you have to go to the Neolithic age, where the creation of communities and how inventions started to improve the lives of people. So you have to also go into the discovery of things like virus and bacteria, how they prolong human life. Then you have to come into improvements in terms of the quality of life issue, life expectancy. Then technology has driven the economy by inventions. So if we don't have to go far out, to the invention of the wheel, but let's just come just to the Industrial Revolution that caused the rare first divergence. Before the Industrial Revolution and before the invention of the cotton gin, most of the global economy, was almost similar. But Europe made leaps and bounds with the invention of the cotton gin and the steam engine and processing of cotton and making consumer products. Okay, so you come from the steam engine, you come to electricity, to macro technology, and now you're into artificial intelligence. And one of the things I wanted to remind all of us about climate change, okay, and what is happening in terms of the carbon footprints. At the London School of Economics, we are talking about the Anthropocene age. This is the first age in which the human is having an effect upon the planet in terms of carbon emission, the hazards, risks, and vulnerability of climate change, and all of that. So we need to be
anthropogenic effect.
Exactly. So that is extremely important. Now back to banking. And when I was undergraduate school, I had a professor, Dr. He wasn't a doctor, he was vice president of Citibank, John Knox. He told us about the cashless society. You're talking about like 50 years ago, the cashless society, okay? And he projected that in terms of electronic payment system would make fiat currency a thing of the past, okay? So right now, today in the global economy, especially in the United States, 99% of the transactions are what? Carried out electronically. But we had to make a migration from a paper currency, right, to checks. Yeah. Okay. When I started working for Bank of America, we used to do check clearing. The Federal Reserve Bank is the clearinghouse for national bankers, and we used to do something called the paper exchange payment system, where I, as a little boy, used to take a bag full of checks and go down to 33 Liberty Street at the Federal Reserve, and they would do the debits and credits on the check clearing. And then later on, we migrated to the clearinghouse interbank payment system. Okay, the clearing interbank system, where they did the micro encoding of the checks and all of that. And then now, globally now, we're into real-time gross settlement through the what? The Society for Worldwide Interfinance Transfer, the technology. So we can transfer money anywhere, and we have all kinds of apps. We got cash apps, we got Sendwave, we got all these things. So the definition of money in terms of it as a store of value hasn't changed, but the form and character of money has changed significantly in my lifetime, and I really have seen the evolution of that. And most people, they know me as a politician. They don't know that I work for Bank of America. I was second vice president for Chase. That's before I got involved into politics. So what I did, I populated my CV as a young man before I went to Liberia, so I could make all the muff and be the person who I am today. The Murphy same guys. But I had a wonderful experience in banking and finance and the evolution of all of that. But so thank you for asking. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. We'll talk about still on the banking issue and how science and technology have made impact that and how that has spurred economic growth. Hafiz, you are the applied physicist, and in terms of the evolution of ATM card, debit cards, credit cards, the microchips, and all those things in it, how much that our scientific ideas have influenced these things to suit keep the financial or the banking sector more focused on our revolving money quickly than people going to banks to stand online. Give your perspective on the impact of science in that respect.
Oh, thank you very much, Golafale. First of all, let me apologize to the listener for my poor my poor microphone line, and then I left the broadcast. So the whole thing about ATM and how ATM and debit cards, credit card, and then how it impacts the growth of the economy. For me, I like to liken it to the issue of standardization in the success of the in-metro unit in Brazil. So I will first of all be very brief on how the ATM card works. You walk to the ATM machine, the ATM card has a magnetic strip at the back of it, you swipe it, the magnetic strip stores all of your information into it by encoding, just like the cassette. You know, the cassette we used to use when we were little?
Yeah.
So then the ATM card the ATM machine asks you for a PIN. That PIN starts to verify that indeed you are the person holding the card. And then it connects with a massive network or interbanking system, two of which are the Xerox and POS. And then you get your information exchange and you get your transaction done. This, first of all, establishes security. You don't have to go around with a lot of money. So the possibility of becoming robbed is reduced. It also establishes speed. Right now, you can buy a car from a European vendor without having to go to Europe because you can just use your ATM card. You can do that online. You can put in your debit card information.
I want to stop you there a little bit for our listeners' sake. Talking about a magnetic chip. What's the whole science there? How's that whole design, fit into speak the science language? Let our listeners hear that.
Okay, so let's say you have a cassette or your hard drive on your computer, right? And you have a picture of Saki. Saki's picture is converted into something called bits, a computer units of ones and zeros. So your picture gets pixelated. That is, it gets divided into very tiny squares, and each of these squares is addressed in a computer memory in terms of ones and zeros. And then the pictures is stored. These ones and zeros are stored in terms of spin, electronic spins. You flip spins and then you store the information. This is stuck onto the magnetic chip forever. When you want to read the information, you need to have a system like our processor here, access those magnetic spin and flip them again, and then those ones and zeros become up converted to data, and then we have the photograph of Saki. So that's how we store information on a magnetic chip.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question, Hafiz?
Yes.
I did a course in CIS 101, and I remember hexadecimal and binary. That's all I remember. And I never failed a course. But is that what you're talking about? The hexadecimal?
That's exactly what we're talking about. That's
okay, the hexadecimal and binary. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's just CIS 101 46 years ago. But
Wow.
Yeah, that's true.
See how we all have something in common. The social scientists and the physical scientists. Mr. John, you want to come in?
No, and I wanted to start with Dr. Gumpo because as he was talking about this importance and science and science on the economy. So I'm here thinking as a librarian like that science will eat. Dr. Gumpo, how does this science impact on the economy benefit me as an individual?
Well, the impact on you is enormous. And although the moderator said earlier that we'll wait for the next segment before we begin to bring it home to Liberia. But the thing is that when we have scientific knowledge of how we can expand production, and with machinery, with computers, with faster processors, which are developed maybe by the electronic engineers who rely on science to develop those systems. Okay, and people can work faster, they can produce more within a given hour. That's what economists call productivity rising. Yeah. So bringing in more technology make the work to be much faster. And when the work is much faster, the productivity is higher, then we can afford to sell those products at lower prices because of higher productivity. So whereas before you were producing maybe 20 bags of rice, in one day, with better technology and a better processing system, now we can process 100 bags of rice in one day. So 2 workers now or 3 workers now can have double or triple their output. So the owner of that rice mill, whether it's government or it's you, can afford to sell those rice at cheaper prices because now the profit is a lot more, and he can pay those workers more, can sell the rice cheaper to the consumers, which could be you, or you could be the investor who own the rice mill. And so you can see there that everyone is benefiting from scientific knowledge and from scientific advancement because of that injection into productivity and into output, which translate into prices that we pay and into the goods and services that you receive. If you're paying lower prices, then of course it's helping to make you richer, because now instead of paying $500 a month for food, now it can help to cut your food bill to maybe $200. Now you save the other $300, and that $300 can go into buying a house, or it could go into savings for your retirement. So you can see the link between technology, quality of life, and the economy right there, just from the individual perspective.
Yeah. Great. And that speaks to how much we can create wealth by using a science-driven approach, tapping into technology and, impacting our productivity. But let's get to the second segment of the show. Our listeners, you're listening to Focus on Liberia here, and this is Chemistry and Society. I've been your host, Saki Golafale. I have my co-host, Mr. Dennis Jah. I have three experts in different fields, social and physical sciences. They're discussing the impact of science on the global economy and how much science the global economy has depended on science. We've discussed some globally how technology or science is impacting us, and we're going to focus on Liberia. Everyone here is a Liberian, and let's look at Liberia and how science can be a driving force for economic growth, and how we as scientists and social and physical scientists can sit at the table and discuss ideas that can influence the nation. Let's start up a general question here for everyone. The World Academy of Science has considered Liberia as a science and technology lagging country. And of course, Liberia is part of 66 countries that are considered science and technology lagging. What are the fundamentals that need to be put in place to kickstart a science-driven economy? I can start with Mr. Jackson on that.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, I just wanted to make a quick comment on Dr. George Gompo in terms of productivity. There was something in economics that Dr. Gompo would now know about factor productivity, where technology increases the output. So if you just have regular material output that you put into production, but productivity, doing something faster, doing it better, and doing it more is really something that drives economic growth. So competition between countries is you got to produce more, you got to produce it better, and you got to produce it quicker and get it to the market faster. Okay, for Liberia, I've always believed that the curriculum in the Liberian schools is a major problem, because the curriculum is not geared toward making you a productive member of society when you go through Liberian schools. Okay, the science, technology, engineering, and math education is basically zero in Liberia. And that is part of our history, where everybody wants to be a lawyer, everybody wants to be a politician, everybody wants to be a representative, and nobody wants to be a scientist, an engineer, to do the heavy lifting, to do the physics like Hafiz is doing, like Dr. Golafale. Everybody wants to be a politician. because they see that politics is the easiest route to wealth. And the wealthiest people in the country are not scientists. The wealthiest people in the country are politicians. And because the wealthiest people in the country are politicians, everybody wants to be a politician. So one of the ways that we can create a science-based society, an evidence-based society that is not lagging in technology and lagging in the quality of life is to start at the bottom in the school system. Science, technology, engineering, and math. And then we have to design the school system for the job market. We don't design the school system for the job market. So, for example, right now, if you're looking at human capital in Liberia, when you want to go and do computer programming, UNDP, anywhere, they have to bring somebody from Ghana. Okay, if you want to bring somebody, a sales scientist, you got to come from another country. So the school system is supposed to be designed to meet the demand, occupational demand of the marketplace, the labor market. The labor market is supposed to drive the curriculum of the school. So you see in America now, we're doing what? Data analytics, artificial intelligence, and all of that, because that's where the next group of high-paying jobs are going to be, and green jobs, green growth.
Yeah. Great. I'm going to hold you there, and your points about the curriculum and STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. I know Hafiz is going to tell us a little bit about so from what Mr. Jackson just said, do you think we need because the Ministry of Education does have our science and technology division. I think you and I worked there before, and there was some progress towards having a national and science and technology innovation policy that are sponsored by UNESCO. But let's talk about from the curriculum perspective and then focus on STEM. Hafiz, what's your take on having our ministry separately for science and technology? Have we reached that point, you think, from what Mr. Jackson just said about the poor quality of our curriculum that's impacting us? What's your take?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we've passed that point. In fact, we are in dire need of that because other countries in Asia, like Malaysia, also have the kind of ministries. But let me just expand on what you're talking about when you talk about curriculum and other things. I think one silver bullet solution is to put the right people in place. I would have said put the smart people in place, but that would be condescending. So I just said put the right people in place. Because you see, Liberia is a really nice and beautiful nation. We have nice laws, we have nice policies, but we don't implement these. As you just alluded to our history at the Ministry of Education, we have a division of science and technology, but it doesn't function. And I want to be blunt about this. That's primarily because we don't have people with the proper training background and with the zest for innovation to lead this institution. We need to establish in Liberia the culture of professional service as opposed to partisan service. So that when you ask Mr. Golafale to run the Ministry of Science and Technology, he runs it and speaks truth to power and telling you, look, you know, we have a high sunshine fraction in Liberia. We must invest into solar energy. And that would be true. Rather than for him to say, you know, we could just continue getting this oil from Japan, even though, and, you know, and fossil fuel sources of energy is not ultimately sustainable. The sun is going to be there until we are no more. The moment the sun goes away, we will have no reason being here. You know, if you follow astrophysics, you know what I'm talking about. So yeah. Once the sun is there, we will be here. And we'll have one of the highest sunshine fraction in the world. Why can't we invest into solar energy? But we don't have the ministry, or even if we have the ministry, we have partisan service. So we do not have professionals who are going to tell the government, you know, this is what we should do and this is what we should not do. So as it pertains to what have we feel like about having a real curriculum for science and technology, as well as the use of STEM, I think we have to make this a law. We have to make this a law because if you want to see growth, especially as it relates to what you mentioned, us being lagging behind in terms of scientific growth and development, we cannot expect to exercise business as usual and see growth. We need to have some kind of enforcement mechanism attached to it. So we need a law that enforces scientific the laws are enforced, compels the government to promote scientific growth and innovation.
Great, great. And we'll have a lot of time to discuss this, and I wish we had more time to talk about these things. And but Dr. Gumpu, let's come to you on the issue of our Hafiz, and I was talking about growth. And sometimes in the 60s, we read history that Liberia was a country there was a phrase of growth without development. And as part of things that propel our growth include our mineral resources like iron ore, rubber, gold, diamond. And being an economist, how do you think over the last 50, 60 years, we haven't added more value to those raw materials like finished materials for iron or rubber, preparing rubber bowls, making latex gloves, making condoms. All those things are based on basic and advanced science that can develop, these products. So, what's your take on Liberia over the last 70 years of having all of these natural resources, and we have not added value, but other countries are adding value to it and bringing it back to us for yeah.
Yeah, a good point. And earlier comments on looking at the educational system, looking at the curriculum, the issue of educational leadership, and the experience of Liberia over the years. I think that as Sharif said, putting the right people in place, leadership, and not just leadership in terms of filling the space, but visionary leadership that basically can look at not only the short term, but the medium and the long term as well. We did grow, but most of those growth were driven by foreign investment and exporting of extractive exports from the extractive sector or the mineral sector.
Extractive industries.
Extractive industries, and what is also described as primary products.
Yeah.
We just mine the ore and we ship it. We mine the diamond, we ship it. We mine the iron and the other products, even the timber, and we ship it.
Yeah.
And so that we grow in terms of the size of our GDP because these things are coming from our country. And government did grow in terms of revenue, but then some of the growth was not sustainable. And the growth was also not inclusive. And part of it is because we have not really invested in our human capital. And that human capital investment is critical to sustainable development. And that was missing in our growth experience.
Yeah.
So in order to benefit from this growth, in order to benefit from these resources, we need to invest in our people and invest in the country in a way so that when we're even talking about exporting iron ore, you and I or some other Liberians or a group of Liberians or some section of Liberia could be some of the owners of these mines. So why 2, 3 different towns can I get together and own some of these mines? When it comes to the issue of even our infrastructure development, where we need engineers, okay? Why don't we invest in our science and engineering system, our colleges, and then make some of the construction of some of these highways to be a project for those students from that institution. So I mean, vision for how we do these things have not been there. So Sharif talked about the issue of laws, and Liberians, we're very good at that, creating laws, and the laws are good. But then when it comes to the enforcement of the law, when you don't have the resources, I have served in government as Deputy Minister of Finance. I work with the budget as Director of the Budget. That's another area we need to look. We need to begin to look at the way we budget and the way we allocate resources. If we recognize the importance of science, we need to invest in science. We need to set some targets, and we need to begin to reward scientists. So, for example, in Liberia, we talk about from so many years. I mean, all of you can remember I don't know when the whole county league system started. So there's a county league, and counties come to compete in football, in kickball. Why don't we start a science fair where we begin to bring scientific competitors from around the county? Let's see, what students in Lofa County discover in the past school year. Compete with students from Maserado County, and let's see who wins the county league when it comes to science and technology. See, so who help to inspire the population and to make young people begin to think about science when they go to school. That we don't just honor footballers and we don't just honor basketballers. We also honor people who discover things. So that's one thing some areas we need to look at in terms of looking at our own system. So in short, the growth in the past did not really emphasize the role of our human capital development in the production of that growth, and therefore the growth was not sustainable. So we need to do some new things.
Yes, in order to get our sustained growth, we have to invest in our human capital, and also, as you rightly said, the budget has to be focused on priorities. And I wish we had more time to talk about these things. As I said initially, that these kind of conversations do not go on in our setting because a lot of people don't think scientists have a place at the table. We usually see politicians, the financials, they sit at the table to discuss these things. I wish we had more time, but let's the parting comment from all what you people are all said. They are quite amazing, and I wish we can take this to another level where we will nationalize the conversation and see how we can propose ideas to influence our nation. I will start with Mr. Jackson on his closing comment. Where do we begin from?
Thank you very much.
Where do we begin from? How can we elevate this conversation, and who can take the lead? Who can better take the lead?
Look, the fundamental or the foundation of it has to be a realization of the importance of human capital and brain and intellect. Liberians don't respect human intelligence. If they come to me and ask me to do a business plan and want $100,000 and I charge them $5,000, they don't know the normal man hours that go into it. They don't know the brain power that go into it because it's not something that they can eat, they can feel, they can touch. It's not important to them. They don't realize that the manpower is not pushing a wheelbarrow. Manpower is brain power. So once we don't equate, brain power to manpower, then we're gonna have that's the first thing they have to do. That the brain is what drives the human race. It is the brain which is the foundation and evolution of human thought. So once we do that, then we're going to start taking things like science seriously. We're going to start paying people their right, do for jobs to do with their brains. So people now, so the politicians in Liberia will not be the richest people. The pastors who have these mega churches will not be. It will be the scientists. In America, it's the people that create. Look at Elon Musk with Tesla.
Yeah.
Look at the technology of that. And I'm not trying to drive up the stock of Elon Musk, but that the electric car is going to be the technology going forward. And people got to start investing in charging stations now, and that artificial intelligence, data technology, and data analytics, if I was young, I would be a data scientist,
Exactly.
All of this is so, but we have to be able to talk to Liberian people, talk to the people who run the government, talk to the civil society, and let them drive this agenda. So it has to be a national conversation that makes these things extremely important. How do an old man like me still make a little bit of money by renting a simple paper, 30, 40 pages for somebody, and they pay me money at my age? But then I'm not pushing a wheelbarrow. So I have Dr. Bopo gets up in the morning and stands before a class or do a Zoom thing and gets paid the kind of money he gets paid, the kind of live, the kind of fabulous life he lives, you know? So they have to think about, so that it's not physical work, okay? Because it's the brain power that's going to improve agriculture, improve the yields, improve the output, you know, get the financing and do all of that. So I want to tell you all,
Great,
thank you
great.
very much for allowing me to run my mouth again as usual. Thank you all so much, and let God bless
Yeah.
you all, okay?
Yeah. One of the things we missed on before I come to the others, we're running out of time, was to read our viewers' comments, but we don't have much time to talk about that. We're going to just have them rolling on. Let's your parting comment, Mr. Sheriff, where we are. How do we
Uh,
start this conversation? Who needs to take the lead?
Um, first of all, you said lead, so obviously the leaders need to take the lead, not to be snarky. But I want to,
Everybody is a leader now.
I know, right? I want to make this comment, even if I don't have any time to make any other comment. You see, the question that we ask every now and then, that does science play a role in Liberia development? To me, that question is as frivolous as compared to asking what role do palm trees play in my palm butter dinner. You know, it's like you can have the palm butter dinner without palm tree. Liberia just cannot develop without science and technology. Seriously speaking, we're going to remain dependent, and we're going to remain dependent forever. Independence will not apply. Today we have COVID-19 vaccine. We are waiting for what we call in the Liberian parlance stably. The guys who develop the vaccine should use it when they feel they have sufficient to share before we can have it in Liberia. We're not going to have COVID vaccine in Liberia right now, until someone gives it to us, because we don't have biochemists and biotechnologists and other researchers in Liberia doing research. So I think we have to prioritize research, and like Mr. Jackson said, we have to make it apparent that research pays. One of my greatest issues that I have with these talk shows is that we have 2-3 minutes to expatiate on things that require an entire lexicon to discuss. But to be sincere with you, but to be sincere with you, in Liberia, people don't see research as a few of, sort of like a career that will generate money to them. Yes. So all of the smart guys will have go into routine tasks. Saki is a chemist. He goes to work for maybe SGS, sorry for the insult, and then he does routine tasks every now and then. He's baking clay and everything. But he could use his mental capacity into research and then work with what we call Ojorobo and crystallize. And crystallize the main ingredient, the healing ingredient in it, and we'll have our own malaria pills instead of buying chloroquine that we don't purchase. So to answer your question, I think the government of Liberia needs to take the lead, because science is expensive. As I've said this before on your platform, science is expensive. So someone with greater purchasing power have to foot the bill.
Great. And when you're talking about me using Jolobo, I was thinking about even taking cane juice, fermenting it into alcohol and making some biofuels. Brazil is one of the leading in biofuels.
Ethanol, guys.
All along years upon years, we've been seeing our kinju people make kinju from the interior just come and it's on the market so cheap, like it's not a good commodity. But there's a lot you can get from kinjus, biofuels. You can get alcohol. You can get so many different products from
hand sanitizer. Talking again.
So we'll have some time to talk more about this. Dr. Gumpu, just a minute of a closing statement.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. I think the show is highly exciting. I think it's past time for these kind of conversations. I think that I agree we need to invest more in research. We need to emphasize the importance of science by the way we allocate our resources. And we're not going to grow if we don't advance our technology, whether we're getting it from other places or we're developing it at home. So the science has so much potential, and it can help unleash the growth potential of our economy. Take basic area like paint production. So the production of paint, we've done it before. Liberia had a paint factory. So imagine if we had chemists who could come up with some ideas, because I think that even though I'm not in the area, but I think the production of paint and the creation of different colors is chemistry related.
Yes,
So
it is.
if there is more research in that area, so that we target the West African market, that Liberia can produce large quantity of paint for the whole of West Africa, for the whole of Africa.
I could make paint with better environmentally safe paint and with better viscosity, and Hafiz can help me with that for the physics background.
Right. So imagine the amount of wealth that could bring into the country. They just reported that Apple net value now is over $3 trillion.
Yeah.
Just one company. I'm not even talking about one industry. So imagine, Liberia exporting paint, competing and exporting paint to the whole of Africa and beyond. And that industry or that company alone bringing in $100 billion.
Great.
So there's so much that
we can
do with the economy, with the quality of life, if we recognize the importance of science and technology, which require more investment in research. But as we said, the politicians are not going to do it if their heart is not in it. So it's not about whether or not this has value or not. It's really also about who's making that policy. Does the people with power, do they understand it? And if they don't understand it, you're waiting to teach them after they have power that, science is important. It's a problem. So in short, I would say that the scientists also have to become activists to make things happen, not just stay in your laboratory. You have to get out and let people know the importance of this and get involved in the transformation of society. And if we do that, we can make Liberia and Liberians to recognize the significance of science to their own livelihood and progress.
Thank you, Dr. Gompu. If I should take your last comment on the scientists should be activists, I may be held, someone, a politician could hold me and say, you are a scientist, you belong in the lab. I've been told that a lot of time by Liberians that I should not get involved in politics. It's not my area. And so we've been, people have said a lot of things about us, not getting involved in scientists. But of course, it's important that we have to be activists. We have to talk about these things. And we have a place at the table. The scientists have a place to sit at the table and discuss about national development. It's been an interesting discussion with these, three experts in their respective field, Mr. Sam Jackson. Thank you very much for coming on the show, Dr. Gompu. We look forward to more discussion and see how we can elevate this to our national conversation to tell people how much science can, using a science-driven approach, how we can help economic growth and development. And Mr. Hafiz Sharif, it's been my pleasure having you on this show, and we hope to have more conversation in the future. And this has been Chemistry and Society on Focus on Liberia. We here every 2 Saturdays. Every other Saturday, we're going to be here 2 Saturdays from now to discuss another interesting topic that focuses on Liberia. I've been your host, Saki Golafale. I look forward to talking to you again. My co-host, Mr. Dennis Jad, thank you very much. I turn over to controls.
We are Liberia. Liberia is our home.